Welcome to Small Business Planning Week, Day 2, sponsored by Bank 59 and the Idea Collective. I'm your host for the week, Pat Miller, the Idea Coach. And yesterday, if you joined us on Day 1, we went kind of deep for the first day of Small Business Planning Week. We talked about your values, we talked about your mission, and then we talked about your vision and where you want to take your business in the future. It was fantastic. And today, we're being a little bit more tactical yet strategic. Financial steadiness and operations are on the docket today. And in true Idea Collective style, we are bringing in experts from the Idea Collective to share what they know, along with our expert host with the most, Liz Watson, the leader on the Impact Trail. But before we get started, let's reset just for a second in case you missed yesterday. We are on a week-long journey to plan your small business for 2021. We're going to talk about all the different facets of your business. And while we have to go fast because it's only an hour each day for 5 days, we're not going to dig in completely. But we're going to bring up the topics you should be thinking about. And we maybe can identify some subject matter experts you might want to connect with if you need to go deeper into what they're talking about as you get ready for 2021. Now, each episode is going to be taped and put up on the Idea Collective YouTube page. And if you're not a part of the Idea Collective YouTube page, you might want to head over there and subscribe, and you won't miss goodness like this throughout the year. One other thing, and Susie's with us, thank goodness, because she gets everything done. If you did not get the workbook from day one, Liz Watson created an amazing Small Business Planning Week workbook that is really the curriculum and the follow along material for the rest of the week. So if you didn't get it, grab the link in the chat and download that PDF right away, print it out, and get ready. We are reserving time for questions throughout. So if you have questions, feel free to add those and we'll interject them there. But before we get started and introduce Liz, I do want to bring in our sponsor for the week. We are very excited to have Morgan Dornfeld from Bank 59 with us. Now, Bank 59 is helping to keep almost pretty much all of my programming for all of 21 free, thanks to Bank 59. So they're a partner with the Idea Collective and with all of the Idea Collective programming. So Morgan, thank you so much for your partnership. How are you today?
Thank you. Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So Bank 59 makes lives better, right? Tell us about Bank 59 and what it means for small business owners like us.
Yeah, hi there. Thank you, everyone, for having me. Happy holidays. I'm Morgan Dornfeld. I'm our cash management advisor at Bank 59. Our mission at Bank 59 is to make lives better. So I'm here on this call to lend you expertise in small business banking and anything that you need with that. One of the ways that we make lives better is with small business banking. We offer many different products and services that can help you run your day-to-day banking and take some pressure off of you, help your bookkeepers, anybody who's, diving into your bank accounts. So any questions you have, or if you need a resource of any sort, please reach out to me.
And let's talk about what that is like when you're a small business owner and you're banking with Bank 59. Great technology, service. I mean, what's in it for us when we come over to Bank 59?
So we have all the latest and greatest technology, like the large banks. We can compete with them. We have business online banking, business mobile banking, business mobile deposit, fraud prevention. Fraud prevention is one of those things that people really need now, and most business owners don't realize that fraud on a personal account is different than that on a business account. So we're here to lend expertise on that. We also have ACH options for you, different ways of making payments and collecting money from people. So anything that you just need to talk through on how to operate the banking part of your job, payroll, merchant services, any of that stuff, we can help with that.
And one thing that we haven't announced yet, but we're going to announce it today,
Oh,
is
great.
Bank 59 in the partnership with the Idea Collective. So can you talk about some of the good things that happen for you if you move over to Bank 59 Business Services as a small business owner with the Idea Collective in 2021?
Yes, we're very excited for the partnership. With that partnership, if you open a business checking account with us, you would get $300 towards your first order of checks and whatever other products that you need for your checks. Or you could do a combination with money off of cash management services like the online banking, ACH, fraud prevention. So you can do $300 off of the products, $300 off of checking, or a combination, and then you get a 1-year free membership to the Idea Collective.
which is pretty outrageous. So if you're a small business owner and you're not in the Idea Collective yet, and you're not banking with Bank 59, boom, 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 what a great opportunity. And Morgan, really the support that the bank is offering for this community to help empower content like we're going to do today is really fantastic. So thank you so much for your partnership, and we look forward to seeing you more often.
Thank you so much for having me. Enjoy
That's
your day.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Morgan Dornfeld from Bank 59. So seriously, boys and girls, this Bank 59 partnership is the real thing, as you see. They are now proudly displayed with the Idea Collective right behind me. So we've got some great things that we're going to be doing in 21. More details on the partnership with the Idea Collective as we get closer to that in January. Now, before we step off into the planning, because we got a lot to cover, the reminder today is you get out of today what you put into today. So if you're scrolling Twitter while we're talking, you're doing it wrong. If you're checking your email while we're talking, you're doing it wrong. This is 1 hour, deep thought, fast moving. So pay attention. And if you invest the time, I guarantee you will get some great value out of it, because we have the one and only Liz Watson, the leader on the Impact Trail. So happy Tuesday, Liz. How are you today?
Happy Tuesday. Feeling great, feeling energized.
So
Did you notice some of the Idea Collective members started doing their homework, Pat?
really, I saw a post on that. What's going on with that?
Ooh, yes. Got the conversation started to review the mission, vision, and values. So that was fantastic.
Yeah, I heard someone, maybe it was Tanya, asking for some follow-up meetings where we could kick it around. Is that going to happen?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's get that done.
All right, very cool. It's going to be great. So thank you to the Idea Collective members for collaborating. But today, we're moving past what we did yesterday, mission, vision, and values. And it really went great. So today we're talking financial steadiness and operations. Let's get into it. How do you define financial steadiness?
So, financial steadiness. It's about your revenue, but it's not all about your revenue. It's really about establishing a strong financial foundation for your company. So let me go through several examples of things to think about when you're considering this, and use your workbook to jot down ideas through this. And then also once we get to pull in some of our experts. But let me give you a sense of what this really means. So yes, we talked about revenue, and it's about making sure you have set revenue goals for yourself and your company, but also considering profit. What goals do you have around that? And before I move forward, the reason that we're bringing these ideas forward and just talking about these topics is so that you can go, aha, I haven't done that yet. Or, I might want to change how I'm doing this thing. Jot that down. It's to help you come up with those ideas so that as you look to next year, you can plot out if these things are important to you to start doing, stop doing, or change, then you can figure out when is the best time for you to address it next year. So in addition to the revenue and profit, you also want to get a handle on your expenses. Are you tracking where you're spending your money in your business? You might, from a financial steadiness perspective, want to consider your business structure. Does it need to be set up differently than it is right now? Or if it doesn't have a business structure, do you need to start doing that? Bookkeeping, and we certainly have an expert here to talk about that. Are you reconciling your books monthly? Or what systems are you using? Do you even have a bookkeeper? Some stuff to think about. And I know Rachel's going to get into a little bit more. From an accounting perspective, do you have someone that can help you with the tax preparation for you and your business? And related to taxes, are you saving for your taxes, maybe in a separate bank account? If so, how much? Do you need to change that? Do you need to revisit what you're doing there for taxes? Or do you need to engage someone to assist you in doing the taxes? Legal. Consider what you need to protect your brand, your products, and your services. So, and we have someone here to share with us on that too today. Think about contracts you may have in place, any agreements, if you need to have trademarks put in place, Maybe you need to update your website with a privacy policy. Lots of things to think about from the legal perspective. And then also consider accounts receivable and accounts payable. How you're paying and how you're getting paid. Do you have systems in place to make sure things are tracked, like invoices and payments? Or who is doing that in your business? Making sure you're clear on who's got that responsibility if it's not you, but it's you if you haven't assigned it out. And do you have schedules in place for paying bills? Are there things you need to think about from accounts receivable or accounts payable? Insurance is another category, and we have Jackson here to chat with us today. What do you really need to make sure you have put in place to protect against business risks? How about retirement? Even though we're a small business, are you considering and saving for what you need to retire? Also, continuity plans or succession plans. Have you considered, if you are looking, maybe eventually your vision is to sell your business, have you started putting plans in place for that? Or, as we experienced this past 2020, something very different might happen than you expected. And is there a plan in place if things truly change with you, and how you're able to support your business? Or just in general? So do you have a plan in place in case something would happen to you? And then another areas to think about is key performance indicators and metrics. Have you established any for your business? If so, how are you tracking them? How often are you tracking them? Does something need to be put in place with that? So let me pause here. There's a lot of stuff that falls under financial steadiness. So this was kind of a brain dump of, these are the kinds of things I try to pull out when I work with clients, of all the things to think about. It's just not your revenue goal.
And I think folks, especially like me, that maybe come from the creative side, everything you're talking about, it's like, oh yeah, I didn't do that. Oh, I need to do, so like there is a lot to get to. And we have so many experts, 7 experts from the Idea Collective, all lined up to help us. So why don't we jump right into it? Let's welcome, on the bookkeeping side of things, let's welcome Rachel Amantia, Masterpiece Bookkeeping. Hello, Rachel. How are you today?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Great to see you. So Liz has got a million different questions. We want to pull some information out of you, but thanks for coming today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Hey, Rachel.
Hey.
So yeah, I guess the intention of this whole week is to really help people understand what are the things they should be thinking about. So when you're serving small business owners and you're bringing the bookkeeping expertise, what are some common things that have come up that you really recommend people put in place if they haven't already, or maybe revamp?
Sure. Well, and you touched on a lot of them while you were talking. A lot of times, just first of all, having the reports to look at and looking at them and learning how to read them and looking at them consistently really helps you so much. And I have so many people say, oh, I wish I'd done this 2 years ago, because there's something about seeing your numbers in black and white, being able to look at the trends throughout the months. It just really helps you know your business better and be able to make better decisions, because it's all right there. And if you're looking at it with somebody who knows how to look at it because you have support, it really just solidifies your business in numbers, and you can help adjust and make decisions accordingly. So first of all, just having them together and looking at them is a big step. And there's a lot of other things we catch, and it depends upon the type of business. You mentioned, your pricing structure. Is it in line? Are you charging enough? Are your expenses in line with your pricing structure? Does it make sense together when you factor in labor and cost of goods sold and that kind of thing? When you're talking about getting money, your AR, you need to have a plan for that, because if you have a large amount of money that people owe you, they essentially stole your services, and it's really hurting your cash flow. So talking through some of that, we also like make sure all of the systems are in place if you're charging sales tax correctly. A lot of people don't know that they have a sales tax liability. I lost my train of thought. There's a whole lot of other stuff. We make sure that your point of sale is matching what's coming in your bank account, and that, personal and business is tracked the way it should be in your books, and all sorts of fun stuff we find once we start digging in.
Yeah, great insight, especially the tip on the sales tax, right? Make sure you understand, what you do and where you live, right? Where your company's based out of, you need to address that. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I saw a recent article by you, Rachel, about setting goals
Mm-hmm.
for revenue and profit. Do you want to touch on that briefly?
Sure. And actually, when you talked about, setting revenue goals, it's not just about revenue. That was spot on. Here's my favorite secret about setting goals is that you should set 3 of them. So set your normal goal, and this should be, a bit of a stretch, but still realistic. It's what you really think you can do in the next year. But then set your BHAG. This is the goal that you're going to be popping the champagne if you hit this thing. If you get that big contract, the year goes awesome. That's your BHAG. You should also set a minimum goal, because if 2020 has taught us anything, it's that we never know what's going to come. And it doesn't have to be global. I've had, businesses who've had a key person pass away or quit unexpectedly, or, the crap hits the fan. You have to know what your minimum is in order to keep your business alive and going. And then spend some time fleshing them out. Figure out what that means for your revenue by month in order to hit that goal. How do you sell that much? And then how do you serve it? What does it mean for your team and operations? And by the way, there should be profit down there at the bottom too. You should plan that in. And then what happens if you have those 3, as the year goes on, you can be flexible because you've thought about the scenarios. You know what you're going to need to do in order if this happens, and you tend to be along whichever goal you're at. And, look at them every month. Look at your numbers when you get them done and compare them and see where you're at. And it really sets you up for financial steadiness, right?
Right, exactly. Did everybody hear her say BHAG? Does everybody know what that is? Big, hairy, audacious goal. That is so fun. Yeah. Yeah, great insight. Now, I'm curious from a profit perspective, Rachel.
Yeah.
Do you recommend a specific profit percentage, or is it differ by business?
Yeah, it varies by industry and how big your business is. And sometimes if you're not operating at a profit, your first goal should just be to get in the black. And also note that if you're not paying yourself a market salary, you're not profitable because you're working for your business for free. So being able to pay yourself is a first goal, and then just starting to get in the black. But then as you go along, you want to get it up to kind of your industry standard.
Great. Are there any other tips that you want to share with everybody when it comes to really all the topics you've covered, but as they look to next year, anything else you suggest they think about and pause and plan for?
I think just bringing attention to it is a great thing. It's been a tough year, and I know a lot of people have been floundering, but in my experience, it's the people that have paid attention to this and have done some of this planning work that have been able to weather the storm. And the reason you're in business is, obviously to serve the people you're serving, but there is a financial component. You wouldn't be doing this if you didn't think you could make money at it. So paying attention to your finances and your profit is one of the best things you can do for yourself and your business.
Well, finances and profit, those are great things. Keeping everything organized is a wonderful thing. Rachel's been on my to-do list for about 6 months. Thank you, Rachel, for coming on today. We really appreciate it. Rachel Lamontia, Masterpiece Bookkeeping. So we're going to continue these questions. What should we be thinking about as we plan 2021? And we've got, Liz, this is exciting. We've got all this revenue and we've got profit and, taxes. So our tax questions are going to be answered by Megan Schwan from Sidekick Accounting Services. Megan, thank you for coming on today. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Hello, Megan. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, so now that, right, as Pat said, we've got some money, or maybe we don't. We definitely need to deal with the taxes. One thing I'm curious about, Megan, is when we talk about, making sure people are focused on that, do you recommend that people have a separate way that they save, or set up their bank accounts or do things to ensure that they're addressing taxes as they need to and saving for them?
I think it kind of depends on the personality. Having a separate tax saving account definitely can help to move the funds out of your regular operating account, which for some people is really huge because they tend to go off of what their bank balance is in operating their business. So if you're that kind of a person, definitely put it a different savings account. And then you want to save probably at least 20 to 25% of your net income. So that's the money after your expenses are taken out. You have your sales, take all of your expenses, your net profit. You want to be saving 20 to 25%, especially if you're a sole prop or a single member LLC where you're filing as a Schedule C filer, because you're paying 15% in self-employment tax just by itself. And that's not even including your regular income tax rate.
Great. Thank you for that insight. I was curious about that percentage. I was thinking it was recommended around 20. So 20 to 25. Awesome. So when you serve other small business owners and you think about, they're looking forward into the next year, what are the kinds of things that you're recommending that they get in place to ensure from a tax perspective, they're all set?
So definitely organization. Like if you don't have a bookkeeper, or if you haven't been keeping up with your bookkeeper, do that, because you don't even have any kind of foundation to go off of when it comes to your taxes if that stuff is not in place. So definitely do that. The other piece of that would be to pay attention to what tax law changes are, especially right now. There was tons and tons of changes that happened during this year with 2020. There was lots of grants that were available. And because COVID's not over yet, I'm expecting that to go into 2021. And with the new administration coming in as well, there are some expected changes to happen as a result of tax law. Now, it probably won't impact the 2020 tax year, but it probably will impact 2021. And the best way to do any kind of planning when it comes to taxes is ahead of the end of the year. So paying attention to that is going to be huge going into this year as well. And then the organization and making sure that you understand the taxes that you're liable for as well. Sales tax is definitely one of them. Payroll taxes is another one. Knowing what your income tax rate is one as well. So comparing your previous year to the current year and where your revenue and net income is another big part of planning as well.
So Megan, a clarifying question. Jackson's asking in the chat, 20 to 25% of profit should be held aside, not revenue. Is that the right number?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. So if someone does not have, an accountant that they're working with, or someone to help with taxes, what are the things you recommend that you look for when you're looking to engage with somebody to help you with that?
Definitely how much.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. You're talking about like when they're deciding on which accountant to use?
Right.
I would say one thing that I would probably use as a gauge is how much they're verbal about what they're doing. So what I mean by that is, like, are they posting articles? Are they interactive with their audiences? Because especially in today's day and age, a lot of people who are not being proactive about that are kind of stuck in, not to be any kind of bias, but kind of an old world thought processes. And the truth is that you got to be innovative today. You got to be innovative in your business. You got to be innovative in your processes and your procedures and your revenue levels. And I think the best way to be able to do that and get solid advice in that direction is to be working with somebody who's in that same mindset as well.
That sounds amazing. Megan, thank you so much for coming on and talking about taxes with us today. We have a million questions, as you can tell, and I'm sure we're just scratching the surface rather. In fact, we have one more question set aside. What percentage of revenue should be profit? Is that an overall recommendation? I think Jennifer is curious about. What is a target percentage for overall profit? Can you answer that real quick, Megan?
So I think that kind of goes along the lines of what your revenue should be with Rachel. What Rachel answered, and is really going to depend on industry. But you do want to make sure that you're paying yourself. Like that's one big thing that I see a lot of business owners get to a point where they're not paying themselves, and then their business kind of wears them out. Like you want your business to be working for you. And so like this year, that's one of the reasons why I got into tax planning this year as well, is to help people keep more of their money, not put so much money in the government bucket. You can make your money work for you, but you got to have a plan in place to do that. So definitely making sure that you're thinking about it before the end of the year is super important. If you can start thinking about or looking into what the plan should be at the beginning of the year, you're going to maximize your tax plan savings, which ultimately is going to help your business work more for you than you working for it. So all those pieces are really important together.
That's great. Megan Schwann, Sidekick Accounting Services. Thanks for coming on and sharing your expertise. Like you do a really great job, by the way. It's great seeing you out there doing all the videos and hosting all the things you're doing. We're cheering you on, and congratulations on your success. So Liz, let's get back to this now. Rachel and Megan came on to talk about bookkeeping and taxes. Do you have any thoughts about these two issues before we move on?
Boy, I think they shared a lot of the good nuggets that, it's going to get everybody's minds churning. So make sure you're jotting down those ideas from these insightful ladies. I really appreciate that.
So let's ramble on. Now we get into insurance. Protect the things that we own. Jackson Bubol's Elevated Insurance. Jackson, welcome to the show. And man, you come prepared. So Liz, looks like we got some stuff to talk about.
Woohoo! I guess we do. Yes. So, Jackson, I guess when I think about insurance, I think it's really more about what do you really need to protect against risks that can happen as a business owner. I'm certainly familiar with errors and omissions, but I'm curious to hear from you when you consider small business owners. What is the advice that you're giving them? What are the things they need to make sure are in place from an insurance perspective?
Yeah, so I just kind of prepared a little bit of a PSA for today. The first and the very, very most important thing, especially since a lot of us are small business owners, get a business insurance policy. There's coaches, there's one-person businesses, there's lots of stuff like that. And I hear a lot of times, well, I just do this, so I really don't need insurance. And that's kind of like trying to talk someone out of smoking or brushing their teeth or whatever. It's like, all right, so please, if you've decided whether I should or should not have insurance for my business, please get business insurance. Especially for small businesses, it's not very expensive, but it just covers the most important things. Like if something we never expect to happen goes wrong, a business policy is the difference between a huge headache and going bankrupt while having a huge headache. Specific lines of coverage I'd like everyone just to be familiar with are data breach and data liability. So what this means is if your system is hacked, there is funds to pay for the ransomware and get your computer unlocked again. There's also, if that happens to you, but you by law also have to inform every one of your clients, vendors, and relationships that you've had a breach. So this coverage builds in expenses for that. EPLI, so anyone who has more than themselves, this is sexual harassment insurance. This speaks both for there's first degree, which is sexual harassment within your organization, and then third degree, someone from the outside comes into your organization and is harassed. This coverage checks both those boxes. If you are a business partner with somebody else, figure out what happens if one of you dies. Either there may be debt or there may be profit in the business, but either way, your spouses and people who are connected to it are going to want to know what's happening next. So going through those steps. And then the other side with personalized insurance, which you all have, every 3 years, just make sure that you're getting the right rate. Make sure that all of your cars that you had when you started are still on that policy. And if you work with a broker, that way they can shop prices and make sure that it's not just the best rate a company offers, but the best rate the market offers. So that was everything that I could think about insurance in 3 minutes. So
Good stuff. Do you recommend different types of insurance for a business that may be product-based versus a service delivery offering?
So there's going to be different types of coverage that goes into each situation. Liability is going to be when mistakes happen or someone gets hurt, and what levels do we need for that? But if you are manufacturing a product, you need to be sure that that product throughout the life of its product does what it does in a safe manner. So, I mean, very, very industry specific with each line of coverage, but we want to be sure that whatever, you know, kind of my go-to saying is there's never a risk that can't be covered. We just have to get the right premium or the right expense to cover said risk.
Oh, Jackson, it's great information, of course. It's exactly what we needed and what we expected. You got people's wheels turning. Can you drop into the chat your contact information if someone wants to know more about you or Elevated Insurance? We appreciate you coming on today. Liz, we got to keep moving. We got way more to cover, and we're not even done with our financial steadiness. We got to talk about legal now. Andrea Davis from Modern Law LLC. It's always great to see Andrea on the call. So, Andrea, it's time to learn about the law, my friend. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Very, very good. So, Liz, what do you want to cover with legal?
Boy, Andrea, I think when I think about this, when I work with my clients, it's talking about what do you need to consider? What do you need to put in place to protect your brand, your products and services, your company in general? And it really has many different categories. So I guess I'm curious from you, from a legal perspective, as you support small business owners, what are some of the common things that may be missing that they should be putting in place?
Sure. So, what I have been finding lately, a lot of business owners are coming to me and saying, "Hey, I've been in business 2-3 years or even more than that. I know, most of my business is conducted basically with a handshake, right? I don't actually have a contract in place for my services, or, hey, I send an email saying this is about what it will cost. But more than that, I don't have anything. There's no formal contract in place." And the first thing I'm going to say is Wisconsin and many, many states do not recognize oral contracts. So everyone live by this law. If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. So you definitely want to have contracts. I also have businesses saying, "Hey, look, I kind of did this hodgepodge contract. I grabbed a bunch of different bits out of other contracts. I just want to make sure I'm covered." So what you definitely want to do is have contracts for products or services. And you just want to have someone look over it to make sure it's covered. You want things like limitation of liability in there. You want things like indemnification, all those things that only lawyers understand what they mean, but they actually are important. They actually do cover you. So you definitely want to have contracts for your services or for your products, just so the customer, your clients, and you, everyone knows what's expected of everybody else. And it's clear. And you're not going back to conversations and emails and leaving it up to a judge to decide what was intended between you two.
So what do you think about templates for contracts like this?
So templates can actually be very, very helpful. So you can find many templates on the internet, but you do have to be aware that there are certain state laws. For example, if you find a template from somewhere in Arizona, there might be stuff in there that is actually, I don't want to go as far as say like illegal, but it's just, it's not something that's practiced in Wisconsin, or maybe there's something left out of there that you definitely want to have for Wisconsin. So templates are great starts, and actually it makes it easier if you can just go to an attorney and just say, "Hey, look, I've got this template. Would you mind reading it over and just seeing if there's anything that I need to add or take out?" So yeah, templates can be very helpful.
Any other components like privacy policies or terms and conditions, or another thought is anything around intellectual property as people start to develop things, even if it's their own process or some products that they're doing. Any insight on what people should think about with those types of things?
Sure. Let's first talk privacy policies. That will apply to a lot of people since we have all gone virtual and many of us have moved things online. It is very important that if you are doing things online. I'm talking about your online consumers. If you are collecting any sort of data from your online consumers, you absolutely must have a privacy policy. You need to say what information you're collecting. You need to say how long you store everybody's information. You need to let people know if you're selling their information to third parties. You also need to let people know how they can get a hold of you and tell you that they don't want you to have their information anymore. That has to be something that you have to say, email this person and say, I don't want you to have my information anymore. Take me off your systems. The other thing you need to be aware of is if you are collecting information from minors, from children, there is a child privacy law that you definitely have to abide by. If you collect information from California residents, California has its very own specific privacy policy that you must put in if you're getting California residents. International. Europe has the GDPR that you must be compliant with. Canada has its own privacy policy. So if you are doing international collecting information from international residents, make sure you are looking at those countries' privacy policies and putting those in there as well. And then you asked about intellectual property. So I will go on record saying I am no expert when it comes to intellectual property. That is not my field. But here's what I do know. Trademarks are something that they're not required by law, but if you want to, they are helpful to have. So you can trademark your business name and your logo. It just gives you an extra layer of protection. It's not required, but if you are selling products that have your logos on them or, your services, if you're getting out there, you definitely want to think about having a trademark. Copyrights, obviously, and patents. So patents are if you're inventing things, right? Maybe you're creating an app. Or you're coming up with a new invention, you definitely will want to file a patent and you want to go to a patent lawyer. You actually have to take a separate exam to do patents. So you want to go to someone who does patent law. But yes, if you're inventing something or doing any software apps, I would definitely recommend patents.
Andrea, this is great stuff. So one thing I want to point out that you do a great job of is helping small business owners. So if someone says, I need an agreement for the thing, we always say, call Andrea. And then you do it like that. Like you don't require folks, and I don't want to speak for you, but it seems like you don't require 12-month retainers or massive contracts. Like you're really good at, hey, I need the thing, and you do the thing. Are you still taking business like that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. My whole point is to have affordable legal help for small business owners. So yes, I don't require any 12-month retainers or anything like that. You just contact me, say, hey, I'm looking at this. And I say, great, let's go.
Yeah, it's awesome. Andrea Davis, Modern Law LLC. Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, okay, Andrea with legal, Jackson with insurance, Megan with taxes, Rachel with bookkeeping. They're all in the Idea Collective, sharing their information every day and helping each other. And it's just so great to have that rich information there. And Liz, I have to say, today is significantly less fun than yesterday. We're talking about all this stuff that I don't have done. It's like, oh, my to-do list is growing out of control. But that's what this week is about, right?
Right, exactly. The things that I geek out on that I want you to think about, right? It can feel a little at first, but we're all here to help each other out. And we've got great experts that are willing to answer your questions as you move along the way. So yeah, sorry for the downer, Pat.
No, it's okay. But this is good stuff. This is like, okay, I should eat better. I should exercise. I should do all this stuff because I like my business and I like profit, as Rachel says. So they're important things. All right. So we're going to transition now and segue into operations. So financial steadiness was first. Now it's operations. Tell us about the scope of today's conversation.
Okay. This is about operational excellence. Here's what you want to think about. How do you want to run your business with more ease? Or think of it this way. What are the things that feel clunky, that aren't working really well? Kind of remember, we're still in the back office, really, with all of this behind the scenes. What's not feeling like it's running very well? What needs some fixing? What could be streamlined? What could be modified to make your life as the CEO easier? So it really comes down to people, systems, software, all coming together so everything runs more effectively in your business. So think about process, procedures, workflows, systems, tools, automations or integrations, those types of things to make it all flow better. So that's kind of under the collective of operational excellence. How can you operate better behind the scenes and have your team do that if you have team members, so that it is more streamlined and things go much better? And then ultimately it does have that impact on your customer, right? If things are running well in the back office, they're going to experience that as your customers. So some of the areas that we wanted to cover today, standard operating procedures was the first one, Pat, where we wanted Nicole to come on and jump in and share a little bit about that from that perspective. So standard operating procedures, or SOPs, are those key things that you need to document and have a hold of, so you know where things are going. But Nicole, I'm going to let you speak to that and give us your own definition if you like. But what, if you can jump in and help us make sense from an SOP perspective, what are the things that small business owners really should be thinking about, or the types of SOPs they should have?
Sure. And first of all, I'm going to say, Pat, you gave us a perfect transition, because where you're talking about that, oh my gosh, my to-do list just got this long. Now we're going to take that to-do list and make it this long so that everybody else is doing all of that for you. So standard operating procedures are something that sometimes we think of those as big clunky things. It's like, oh my gosh, only big businesses have standard operating procedures, but everybody can actually begin to outline standard operating procedures. What is a standard operating procedure? Well, let's just take the exact words: standard operating procedure. That's all it is. It's a procedure that you do on a regular routine basis that is standard in your business. So this could be the process that you use to answer emails. It could be the process that you use to create social media posts, or templates for your website, your blog content, your podcast. All of this kind of great stuff can be outlined as a standard operating procedure. The best way to do this, because I know we're thinking, oh my gosh, I have to sit down and jot on paper and write down all of these steps on how I do everything. There's this phenomenal tool called loom.com, LOOM.com. And you can do a video recording of your standard operating procedures. So you're basically just recording yourself as you're going through this process. And that is the best, easiest way that you can create this operating procedure. And then you hand that over to a VA or virtual assistant to have them actually outline the details step by step. But that is just a great way to kind of get that started.
That is a fantastic tip. I just love that tool, Nicole.
It's fabulous. And it's free. I mean, 5 minutes or less and it's free. So how can you beat that?
Right. Exactly. Awesome. Any other insights on what you think small business owners should be thinking about to be able to operate in more of an excellent manner?
So I kind of come from that whole mind perspective, where to me, setting up operating procedures isn't just that, oh my gosh, it's something that I have to do, but it's the benefit that you're getting out of it. When we can take the thought process out of the things we're doing, it saves energy, it saves brain power, it saves that overwhelm and that anxiety of, oh my gosh, I have to sit down and do my bookkeeping again, but I don't remember what the process is. That's just too much work, so I'm not going to do it. So taking that standard operating procedure, it's as solopreneurs, it's that first step in allowing us to alleviate some of that stress and overwhelm. And then we can hand that operating procedure off to a team member that we have, so that they can begin to do it for us. So it's that stepping stone process.
Well, Nicole runs a very special business. She oversees an army of assistants to help you with delegation. How many people do you have on your team? You must have a ton.
Well, I have 5 directors who are working directly with the clients, but then the scope of the team extends quite a bit beyond that. So we have social media managers, we have web developers, we have content writers, graphic artists, the whole bit. So
It's impressive. Well, Nicole Bandis, Virtual A Team, make sure you drop your information in the chat in case people want to get some of this stuff done and shorten their to-do list. We appreciate you coming on today.
For sure. Thanks.
All right, Liz, let's move on to process automation. So if we did a good job of identifying our standard operating procedure and this is how you do the thing, what about automating some of those things? So let's welcome in to talk about process automation, the one and only Susie Moon of Susie Moon Consulting. Hello, Susie. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. It's great to be here, as
All
always.
right, Liz, let's automate some stuff. What do you want to know?
Okay, so, what do you recommend, Susie, right? There's these SOPs, but when it comes to process automation, why do you think it's needed, or what do you think people need to think about in that space?
I think it's important to have your systems talking to one another, if at all possible, have them integrated. So if you have a calendar system that you're using, make sure it's connected to your CRM system. So when someone books an appointment, it goes directly into your CRM system and you can track notes. You can have follow-ups based on that. And if you can automate that even on top of that, and have, if you meet with somebody, have a follow-up email go out. Thank you for meeting with me. I would love to connect, or some future follow-up, I think would be very helpful. I personally use Cultivating Sales to automate everything. So you can set up triggers, you can set up text campaigns, you can automate your email. So pretty much all of you, well, actually not on this call, but for most of Pat's things, you have an automated response that you get, or a trigger set up behind the scenes.
Yeah, that really goes far, doesn't it, Susie, to take some of the burden off of all the steps you have to do. If you can integrate some tools and get more things automated, and then it's just more of a consistent experience for your customers and clients too.
Definitely. The less you have to do and go in there manually and program everything to do the work for you, the better it'll be in the long run. So I highly recommend it. You can use Zapier.com to connect different software together to make things smooth. I think you get 5 free per month if you want to just set up an account and give it a try. It's fun if you get used to it, I guess. I geek out on stuff like that. Yeah,
exactly, as we do. And I think the other part of process I want to add into this is sometimes a visual is more helpful than a list of things. When you think of an SOP, a lot of times you're just jotting down all the tasks. I've found I've worked with visionaries who prefer a visual. So can you give me a workflow or a visual flow of how this works in my business? And if you've used that before, using swim lanes to know for each major step in a high level process, who or what role on the team is accountable to do that, and then who does it go to next, or what system, right, does it go to next, Susie?
Definitely.
So yeah, I've found that if sometimes adding that visual instead of just a list of tasks is easier to consume for the person that's more creative or more visual.
Definitely. And as Nicole mentioned, working with a VA, I think can be a little overwhelming at first. You're not sure what to hand over. I use LastPass.com to manage my passwords. So I'm finding myself actually handing things off as well. Projects that I just don't have time for, finding a person either on Upwork or finding a VA to do it. It's great. And it has all of your passwords in one location with a master password for the vault. And it's secure and you can share it with others. So it's kind of fun.
Well, process automation, you're a master at that. Susie Moon Consulting. Thank you for all that you do for me and for the community. You would just not believe how much she gets done to make the Idea Collective work. So thank you, Susie. We do appreciate it. All right. So we've only got a few minutes left and we've covered so much ground. I feel like we need to have like a halftime, like a football game, like bring out the marching band so I can catch my breath. But we've only got like 8 minutes left. We've covered so much. So if you have any questions that you want to get answered, all of the experts are still on the phone here. God, how old am I? On the Zoom. And we will, get those questions answered as we wrap up. So get them in the chat. But Liz, there's another topic that's important about operations that you want to cover. Let's talk about testimonials, how important they are and how they fit into an operations plan.
Yeah, as I thought about different standard operating procedures and ones that I'm hearing that my clients want to put in place, testimonials came to mind. And so here's how I think about it. As we're going through these exercises, if it's, oh yeah, boy, I should probably do something about testimonials. I'm not collecting them today, or maybe I want to revise how I do that. So here's where my project management brain goes when we talk about testimonials. It's first determining, when are you even going to ask for a testimonial? Do you want to do it upon the completion of a service you provide, after somebody buys something, some other point? This is going to be a list of things to kind of think about. Then once you kind of know when you're going to ask for it, well, how are you going to collect it? Might you make a personal phone call and ask for one and maybe record it, do a Zoom? Might you ask someone to fill out a form to turn in, to collect that testimonial? Maybe you do an email request out to your past customers or clients. You need to think about how you want to go about collecting them, either from the past or as you move forward. What kind of process, right? And maybe system, automated, could you put in place to keep collecting those? Then where do you store them? Once you have them, where's kind of the central spot in the back office of your business where you're going to keep them all? And then once you have them, where are you going to showcase them? Do you want to put them on your website, maybe in your social media, add them to newsletters that you send out? And then after all of that, you want to think through, well, if those are the steps, who's going to do those steps? And if somebody's going to help me put this in place, would they need access to any of the systems that we have in order to do this, in order to do the requesting and then collecting and then promoting those testimonials? Also, who might document what it's going to take to do this? And ultimately, for all of these SOPs, consider, once you have them, where are you going to keep them so that they're easily accessible to you and your team? So if you do bring on a different team member, you could say, here's the spot where we keep our SOPs, and this is the one that's going to help you. So that's a little more generic, but testimonials is just one example of an SOP, and the things that you can think through to get that up and going.
Now, can you see why we have Liz as our presenter this week? Hey, let's talk about testimonials. Oh, do the thing. No. What are you going to do with them? Why are you going to do them? Where will you put them? How will others know about them? What does that do for your business? All of the questions, all of that 30,000-foot leadership thought, that's what she brings. And I can't believe, Liz, this is day 2. This is day 2. And we have 3 more days of stuff to cover, and my brain is already partially melted. That's how great this has been. Thank you so much for what you've done for us. Let's talk about what we're doing tomorrow. We're covering product and visibility. Give us a sneak peek of that.
Okay, so for product, let's talk about all the ways you bring in revenue. And when you think about that, is there anything as you look forward to next year, based on the goals you've set or that vision now that you have out there? Do you need to add any new products or services? Do you need to change any of them? And do you need to stop doing any of them? Somebody mentioned earlier pricing strategy. Do you need to revisit that? Or maybe how you deliver your products? So we'll talk about that with our experts tomorrow. And then visibility was the other one. How do you want to make people more aware of you as the leader of your business or your brand or the products and services that you offer? And let's talk about some of the ways, right? Not all, because there's a million ways you could be more visible, but let's have you start thinking about that. How could you be more visible in the new year?
So that's what this is so powerful about. What should I be thinking about when it comes to next year? Thank you so much to all of our presenters today, Rachel and Megan and Jackson, Andrea, Nicole, Susie, Liz, Donner, Blitzen, Rudolph, everybody that came. It was fantastic. And, Rachel dropped it in the chat, and it's true. If you want to continue these conversations, that's what we're doing inside the Idea Collective. All these people are members. So if you're not in the group, you might want to think about it. So thank you so much to our presenter, Liz Watson, leader on the Impact Trail, for the excellent information. If you want to know more about Liz and maybe, I don't know, have her do this for you because this is what she does, LizWatsonImpactTrail.com is the website. So we encourage you to continue with us on this journey. How did you do on staying off Twitter? Did you email? Did you stay at it? Did you do it? I did. I'm very proud. So hopefully you get something out of today, because I know that I sure did. A long to-do list. Tomorrow we'll do the same thing at noon. It's Small Business Planning Week, presented by Bank 59 and the Idea Collective. I'm Pat Miller, the Idea Coach. We will see you tomorrow at noon. Have a great day, everybody.